Welcome back. And we continue onwards with Bridge. Now that we have a reasonably good understanding of what Bridge really is all about, let's take a quick look into using the Adobe downloader for your images from your camera or your card by using a card reader. And at the same time, before you even begin downloading, perhaps creating a metadata template with appropriate keywords so that you can actually start indexing your files. Okay, that's what we're primarily going to focus on in this short video. So to be able to do that, on the top you see this little icon. This is the camera downloader. So you can either hook up your camera directly and switch it on using a USB cord or whatever connectivity you use, or use a card reader and click on this. As soon as you click on it, it should come up with a dialog box which should look something like this. And in here, you can, if you have multiple devices, you can choose where you wish to download the images from. That's number one. Number two, you also have the ability to choose exactly where you wish to place this. Okay, so for just demonstration purposes, I'm going to say, hey, let's do a metadata test. Or let's say I'm just going to go to my desktop and create another folder and say fresh downloads nature. Okay, and I say create. Now I'm here and I hit on open. Okay, so that's one. Next up, do you wish to create subfolders based on what date that image was shot? I strongly recommend using this. Okay, it's a good idea having a shot date. So what will happen is it'll organize your images by date, which really does help. You also have the ability to rename if you so desire, and you can enter a custom name. You can add a sequence number, so I'll just say 1. Okay. Do I wish to preserve the current file name in my XMP data? Why not? It doesn't hurt. And once I have downloaded, what do I wish to do? Open Adobe Bridge. Absolutely yes. If you're working with raw files and if you have a preference to work with DNG files, which are the digital negatives format created by Adobe, you can always convert them on the fly while you're importing them. It's a choice that you need to make. Okay, I am not a great fan. I just use the native files, whichever raw format they're in. Then the great thing about Bridge is it also allows you to create a backup simultaneously as you're downloading your images. You can also dump the same images concurrently while they're downloading onto your primary drive into a backup drive, which is not a bad idea. And you can go here in the choose button, click on it, and then say, hey, this is where you want it to be. Okay, so I'm, for the time being, because I've already got these, I'm not going to bother creating a backup for the time being. But then there's other features in here. Notice at the bottom left there's an advanced dialog. Click on this. Now this not only shows you the thumbnails, you can actually scroll through all the images that may be residing in your card if you wish to. But beyond that, notice here, do you want to delete? We talked about convert to DNG. Do you wish to delete the original files from the card or the camera? No, because you want to ensure that everything is downloaded accurately and correctly before you go formatting your card and removing any data from there. And again, save copies too. But what I wanted to bring you to was applying the metadata. Okay, now here you'll notice I have a few additional metadata templates which you may not have. So before we go importing and getting the media onto our computer's hard drive, let's take a quick look and then we'll come back to this. I wanted to show you this so that you understand what we are doing, and we'll come back again. I cancel it. And when I look at my window, if you're not seeing your bridge window similar to what I have here, you can always go into this flyout menu and simply say reset. Okay, and it should bring it to its default behavior. To be able to create a fresh new metadata template, there's a bunch of things you need to consider. What is the purpose of a metadata template? What is the point of having keywords? Because if you're shooting a lot of images, you need to be organized. Otherwise, you wouldn't know where your images are, and you would have no idea how to find them or search them. Once you have a bunch of images, it could be in the thousands or hundreds of thousands. And trust me, images do accumulate if you are doing photography on a regular basis. So it's a great idea to start indexing them or setting some keywords or some associations which will help you find them. Okay, so in this window where I have my cursor, you will notice there's something called metadata. And here a whole load of information is listed here. Okay, my interest is not in this, but actually creating a new metadata template. So if you click on these 4 lines, which is the flyout menu, you have the option of creating a metadata template or editing one that you may have. So since we don't have an existing metadata template, let's assume that we're going to create one. Okay, so I click on the create metadata template. And here we are with the metadata template creator. Okay, and it says create metadata template. So you can obviously give it a name, whatever name that you prefer to. So let's say I'm going to call it people photos. So I'm going to make a generic one, okay, which will basically be all about people. And then once we have imported the images, then we can add additional keywords. So what information do you want in here? And this is a lot of information in here. I mean, if you go scrolling, it's going to be some time. So let's take a look at the fundamentals here. In the core information, yes, I do want the creator name, job title, sure. I don't particularly care about the address, the city, totally yes, state, province, postal code if you so desire, country, telephone number, email, website. Okay, now this is the basic stuff. Okay, now beyond that, headlines. Do you wish to add any headline to the nature of photography that you're doing here? Any descriptions to this collection of images that you're working with? If you so wish to, you by all means check it. But my recommendation is don't listen to me. Go through everything. See what makes sense for you. I am going to focus on what has made sense to me. Okay? So the next step for me would be keywords. So I've already got a bunch of keywords in here. You can always add more and more. Now, notice that I have titled it as people photos. So I'm also going to say people photography and comma as a separator. Beyond people, what else do I want to say in here? Female, male, beauty, fashion. So the list can be endless. So do your homework, figure out when and what you need. Now that I have done that, do I want the date created? Doesn't really matter. It's a choice you make. Intellectual genre, IPTC scene code, not relevant. If let's say you were traveling and you had traveled to a particular country and then you had traveled to different cities, I think it'll be an amazing idea to choose sublocations and city and all those lovely things, because that will allow you to further refine your images and help you find them when the time comes. So go through all of this, and then copyright I do want to show, copyright status, yes, and I will say copyrighted, unless you want to go in the public domain. and rights usage terms. So you can also add there, image may not be used without prior permission or something to that effect. But since it says all copyrights reserved, it implies the same. But for the sake of comfort, images may not be used without permission. Okay, that's done. So we've got one section done. Then we have IPTC extensions. If you were shooting a particular event or a particular person, it could be a wedding for somebody, you could actually say person shown and add their name or whatever it may be. If it was an organization, by all means, add it in there. So the nature of event, a whole load of stuff. Then, since I'm shooting people here, and this was a commercial thing, it was a workshop, I need to specify, do I have a model release available? So yes, I'm going to check model release status and what the value is going to be. Unlimited model releases. So I have whatever people that I photographed, I had them sign a model release prior to actually shooting. Okay, so that's done. So make sure this is checked. Anything else that makes sense to me? Not really. I mean, these are again things that you guys can look into, what value they may have for you, or whatever it may be. Copyright owner, who has the copyright. So you can come and you can add name and all those wonderful things. So I added one too many, so I have deleted it. So if it was an image done by somebody else, you could always say copyright owner was somebody else over here. So I am not doing that, so I've unchecked it. I can actually trash it. Camera data, EXIF, absolutely, I do want the camera data. Any GPS information, no. And basically that's about it, because the rest of it, audio, not interested, video, not interested, DICOM, definitely not interested. And that's the end of it, okay? Now that I have done this, I can save this. And you'll understand the reason behind this. So since I have created this particular metadata template, what I can do if I wish to apply the metadata template to this set of files, I could simply select all the files. Let's say I did not have a template available prior to downloading my images, and now I'm ready, so I can always apply. So I can come into the metadata on the flyout, and then I have options. I can replace the metadata, okay, or I can append. Since I already have metadata associated with these images, I will say, let's append the metadata, and I will choose the one that I wanted. Once I have done that, I hit the check mark over here, and it is, notice at the bottom, it says writing metadata to X number of images. So that's one way of applying a template that you might have created. But going back to where I had started with the image downloader built within Adobe Bridge, what if I want to now download images and actually apply all of this information to the same images? Okay, so if I go click on my photos from Get Photos from Camera icon, it opens it up and I will choose the device that I want. Now, interestingly, these have nothing to do with people, but since we have actually gone through that process of creating a template, it doesn't really matter because I will trash this once I have done it. So I just wanted to do this to share with you. So notice it says template to use. So in my template to use, guess what? Here is the people photos. Okay. Now I also have a generic template which I apply without thinking twice about anything. So, but for the time being, I wish to apply the people photos. Let's see what happens. Okay. So I've got that. And what's the next thing? Do I wish to back up? No, remember I talked to you about it. Let's just confirm where are the images going. So I had created a folder, or do I need to create a folder? Let's create a new folder, okay? And I'll place it on my desktop, and here's the folder that I'd created, fresh downloads nature. And I open, and I'm going to save copies as a backup. Not really, not for now, but I could quite comfortably. And I want to apply this particular metadata template, and then I want these images to open in Bridge as well. I do wish to preserve the original file names, okay, in the XMP data, making sure it's set to 1. And let's get the data. Now, there are 117 files, so it will take a little while, and I'll simply speed up the process so that I don't waste your time. Okay, now we have finished, okay? And guess what? By default, Bridge has opened up from that particular space which I had designated, which was somewhere on my desktop, okay? So if I just want to check, I click on the folders and I see the hierarchy. Where are we? Okay, so yes, users, desktop, fresh downloads, nature. And you know something interesting? Watch what has happened. There are 3 distinct dates. So what Bridge intelligently did has separated images by date for me. So that could be a very interesting and easy way to track my images by simply searching them by date. But let's see what has happened to the metadata stuff. So if I come in here and I go there, so these are these kind of images. Then we have another 2 images, and then we have a bunch. And these are the images that I'm more interested in. Now, before we go even looking at the metadata or anything, notice all images are shot both in RAW and JPEG. I don't wish to see the JPEG files for now. So what I could do is I could go into the filter area on the left, and I could simply say, hey, there are 52 RAW files and there are 52 JPEGs. I do not wish to see JPEG files. So all I have to do is I check on the camera raw image, and it hides the JPEG files, so I have less clutter. Now I could go back and forth and review them, but one of the objectives that we had defined, how do we work and what happens? So let's pick on anything. So now that I've picked on the image, okay, so remember we had checked that the file properties should be there and everything is there. Next thing that I wish to share is the IPTC core that we had input stuff. Aha! So guess what? All the information that I had input in my template for the metadata is here, including the keywords, and I can always add more keywords in here. So all the data that we had chosen to input is all here. Now, for whatever reasons, I don't know why Bridge does this, but on occasions it shows copyright status as unknown, while copyright notice is mine. So it doesn't make sense to me. And the easiest thing to do is click on any one image and do Control A or Command A, depending on whether you're on Windows or Mac. So I'm on a Mac, so I've done Command A. And all the images in that particular folder are selected, and copyright status, I'm going to change that to copyrighted. And it gives the rights usage terms. Images may not be used without consent. So my consent seems to have disappeared. I will add. Okay, and once it was there without permission. I just didn't see that. So I'm just going to hit the check mark. So it is going to apply everywhere. Having done that, let's see whether the keywords that we have input in here show up in our keywords information panel over here. And yes, they will be here without exception. And you can always more keywords and do whatever that you wish to do directly and right in here. Okay, so use this effectively because it will genuinely save a lot of your time. I find it incredibly effective to manage and to be able to search my images as and when I need to. Because without the keywords and the metadata in there, I would be lost because the images would have no reference. So what are we going to be looking for? I hope this does make sense to you. I really do, because this is by far one of the most important things if you wish to be successful as a photographer in a business. You can be a great photographer, but if you don't manage a business well, a bit of a problem. Okay? And I shall see you in the next video where we will talk a few other things with regards to how to use Bridge to benefit your workflow. Thank you very much.